Good day to all of you. In a few figures, basically, out of 5 million researches on Google engine, 3.5 of these million researches are made in 1 minute, to give you an idea. There are about 70,000 hours of research computed on not only on research engines, but also on Netflix. There are tens of millions also of conversations going on in Snapchats or Tinders, counting 1 million, 500,000 tweets, 4.5 million tweets sent out from the YouTube to the Google groups, and then 16 million text messages. All of these figures are projected on the screen behind me. You can see also 14,000 of hours of music consumption through Spotify. And if you move on to the next slide, basically this is just a classic reflection of supply. And we discussed earlier on the construction business. The digital industry is a much more recent industry. As you know, it only started 40 to 50 years ago with portable computers. That's to say we're literally no way further than 1 year after Jesus Christ and the era of the digital revolution. And you know, in the 1980s, things were getting started with the web. Version 1 were edited in the 1990s, 10 years later, and then 2010. Collaborative networks gradually started to emerge with a more participative approach with the users-generated content, whereby the users themselves contribute to the content rather than the editors or the web administrators. That, of course, was a rather radical inversion of the prior paradigm. And then 10 years later, the next step, I suppose, is this series of vocal softwares that enable you to basically translate your oral requests into a properly understood and written, interpreted command. And this is the big intelligence actually conquering our daily lives. So it is, of course, a very thrilling evolution, and we can only rejoice if it weren't for the lack of presence of French companies among the 20 top companies, basically Apple, Google, Amazon, Facebook, all the known ones, Alibaba, who's a Chinese one, Uber, who happens to be among ourselves on the panel today, Yahoo, Airbnb are among the few French well-known companies now rivaling with Marriott, for example, and other hotel chains. But even though we can congratulate ourselves for being in this list, they do not rank among the 20 top ones. Other than American and Chinese actors, we are lagging behind, it seems. So that is the current situation of the stakeholders, if you like, of the people actually taking part in this digital revolution. And another aspect is that between 2001 and 2016, if you look at the listed companies, there was an essential majority of oil-based company to the biggest food distribution giants. And then we've moved on to the Apple, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, and Facebook, to the digital giants. So the pyramid has been completely shifted, and the figures you see projected on the screen right now are no older than 8 months at the most, so they seem to be lasting and sustainable, reliable ones. But evolve very fast, of course. Apple has increased. They do have a cash capacity of $250 billion. They can decide to buy out Tesla or anyone they like, really, overnight. And I think their strength, we'll talk about it later on, is to be putting themselves 100% in the consumers' or clients' shoes without making allowance for the production constraints, remaining 100% client-oriented, if you like. And that's what really keeps them afloat in terms of innovation, creativity, and of course the technology backing up their efforts or their vision. And on my last slide, which is supposed to be anecdotal, it was the cover of The Economist three weeks ago, actually. It doesn't concern, as you see here, oil, forages or platforms, but big data platforms, and that is really what the world is going to revolve around in the next future. Some of you, even in this conference room, I think, are probably connected on their smartphone, and well, you may or may not be aware of what the operators do behind your screens, basically. But any move of yours on this big worldwide virtual screen is, of course, monitored and supervised by Google, Amazon, and all the other bigger groups, because personal data are no longer an issue among the younger generation, actually. If you go through a quick survey of what the youngest may fear about their personal data, it's less of an issue, and therefore Uber or Amazon were able to compile some major big data servers, basically, tracing all your behaviors, your desires, and enabling them to provide you with highly specialized, personalized, and tuned, very well tuned or marketed offers. And so in everybody's eyes, it appears as a sort of virtuous cycle, because it should be, after all, used in the benefit of the consumers at the end of the day. But of course, there are some major society debates around this issue. We shouldn't add on this natural and spontaneous growth by adding too many regulatory barriers. But of course, there are some personal data issues that we must as well. If you have any questions at this stage, don't hesitate to jump in. This is just a draft.